And our topic today is why it is so hard for good coaches to sign clients.
The reason for that was that this coach lost a $3,000 client.
And if you're still stuck on the word sell, in order to get a client, you have to convince them, or they have to choose to start coaching with you, right? Taking enough people through a process that has totally transformed their life. Now you can start to see that data and believe in it and in yourself, right? Because if you have a certification, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm certified, but you can still face the reality that you haven't actually done anything for actual clients with that certification. And so as long as you don't see that it's going to make the difference, you might not believe fundamentally that they should spend money with you.
Actually, the job is you're either on calls with potential clients or clients. If you do that regularly, you have a coaching business eventually. Even if you suck at the offers or the way you structure the sessions if you do that long enough, you will catch on.
Hey, it's Daniel, and you are about to watch a clip from our free podcast, The Coach's Journey, where we help you navigate the surprisingly difficult path of building a coaching business by people who are actually doing it. And we go live, raw and unedited every week in our free Facebook community.
All right, Coaches Nation, welcome to another edition of the Coach's Journey podcast. I am Daniel Fernandes, and I'm here with Faisal Ensaun. And our topic today is why it is so hard for good coaches to sign clients. And I put the word good in quotes because that could mean like you're actually quite good, or you think you're good. It could mean a lot of things, but it still doesn't make it automatic or easy to sign clients. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And every time I think about, am I a good coach? I always think about this on a continuum. I think about, there's a mountain, right? That every coach or every leader, every professional is climbing on. And there's going to be people who are more advanced than you and less advanced than you across multiple dimensions, but just on the overall, like there's always people that are more advanced and less advanced than you. So if you are better than you used to be and not as good as you're going to be. So, whether you're good or not is not really the question today. Today, the question is, how do we take the skills that you have today and help you sign clients? That's what today's going to be all about. Faisal, you want to share a little bit here also?
Yes, well, we'll have to do a good job of defining what good coaches are. Like, what is that? But I agree. 100% that there will always be people better than you. There will always be people the same level as you or similar. There will always be people who are not as good as you. Now, the question is, what have you convinced yourself that you are? And that's what we want to explore. And how does that affect you getting clients or not?
Yeah, it's a great question. Because our subconscious mind is a big part of this, right? No, great question. Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is maybe we talk about, like, everybody who's watching this probably has some kind of coaching certification, at least one. And if you don't, that's fine too. If you have enough coaching experience that you feel like you're doing coaching, and even if you haven't started coaching today, you might have had a coaching certification. And what the real focus I find in the market out there for most of the programs we have heard of, and even participated in, the focus skills are the coaching that happens once you have a client. And once you have a client, you're getting into the coaching sessions of the program, right? And maybe you have a structure that you take people through, or maybe you have some frameworks that maybe you have some tool sets or methodology, or whatever it is, your modality that you use, you probably have focused, or you at least have focused to some degree, if not completely, on what happens after you sign the client. Those are great coaching skills, very important coaching skills that everybody needs. And those skills actually also do apply before you sign the client, but there's a whole other layer of coaching skills that happen before you sign the client that are coaching skills indeed, that are different coaching skills than people are used to learning about in the post-client acquisition process. When all the listening skills are important on both sides, all the typical coaching skills that you employ session to session are both similar and different to the ones you need before you sign the client. The skills you need to get clients are slightly different, and you can rate yourself on that. Like, if you're going to rate your skill as a coach, I want you to also rate yourself as like the coaching that happens before they sign. Like, how skilled are you at getting clients to sign, which is also an important part of coaching. And I want to take that distinction away. If there's sales skills and there's coaching skills, they're actually the same skill set. but they're different contexts. And I would even apply sales skills, apply even within the coaching conversations after you sign a client. You're always sort of like selling the client on their own dreams and on the renewals and on the next session constantly, in a way, because you know it's beneficial for them. As long as you're getting out of your own way and worrying about yourself, there are, there's a whole other level of grading yourself as to your skills in coaching when it comes to, selling, quote. And if you think selling is a bad word, then I'll just say like helping the client make great decisions.
Yeah, which is the definition for selling.
Yeah.
You just might not like the word.
Yeah, if you don't like the word selling.
So I wish certifications were at least the places where coaches get certified. They would tell them something, and I wish they told me this because that would have been helpful for me. I'll start with me, where that, hey, I know you're getting certified as a coach right now. You will become a coach when you have taken somebody when you've taken at least X number of people from this point to this point. When you've actually helped them create results, this many people. Let's say we can randomly make that number up, 5, 10, whatever. Then you can call yourself a coach. Before that, you're sort of like
a trainee.
It could be an intern, trainee, a coach. And these are like normal terminologies we use in different industries.
Like the engineering profession, you're not allowed to call yourself an engineer. You have to call yourself an engineer in training, which I had to do when I was doing my professional engineer's license. Right. I couldn't call myself, you couldn't use the word engineer in my resume or as a title or anything until I got the license. So that the public would understand that engineer means you've been licensed.
Right, and there are certifications to give credit to some that they do that, where they have to complete a certain number of coaching hours before they even get the certification, which I think is a great idea. Because the problem happens when you get certified, you go out there, and in fact, sometimes I've heard the opposite of that, oh, you're ready to coach. You got this. And I know it's a positive mindset and you're getting them motivated, getting them to actually take action with possibility. But it also sends it creates disconnection with reality, because they will go out there and they will try to put themselves out and they will feel completely incapable of doing that in many cases, or their own problems will come in between, or whatever else. But if you just go and I'll give an example of this coach that I worked with for years, actually. She came out of a certification. She needed a certain number of coaching hours, and she did a bunch of them with my wife, because my wife was in the same certification as her, and she loved her coaching so much she ended up hiring her. Not only did she end up hiring her, I had a project come up where I needed to hire like close to 10 coaches for this community. And we ended up hiring her for that. And then even after that was done 2 years later, actually to this day, I sent her some clients for some sessions whenever I needed. She actually demonstrated based on, because she supported my wife came to me, convinced me, sold me on the ideas like, hey, I think I want to hire her. I'm like, great. Okay, if she's helpful, then I didn't need to know what she did. And then when that project came, he was like, well, what if you talk to this person? I'm like, great, let me talk to her. And I talked to her, and I had some direct experience. Actually, I ended up hiring her too for a few sessions for myself too. So that was in between. So I saw her skill sets there too, and I'm like, okay, this is really good. And by the way, I also had hired a couple of coaches that didn't work out. And the reason why it didn't work out because their skill set, they just weren't there. And I'm pretty sure she had a better background experience, but also she had spent a bunch of time doing these experience sessions with quite a few people. She wasn't inexperienced, you could tell. And so then, and I'm trying to define a good coach with that, is that a good coach is somebody who's applied what they've learned in theory. How good, that gets determined later on, but at least if you're a good coach, you've applied it to a certain degree in real life, so you don't hesitate to, you don't question whether or not you would support somebody. And incidentally, every coach who hesitates to sell their program their biggest thing that I hear in some version, they'll say is like, I don't know if this will be valuable. Because you don't know if it will be. It's like you don't have enough data.
Yeah, there's kind of two big things you're talking about. One is your own confidence level in your offering, and these two are inextricably linked. Like your own confidence in your offering and the amount of experience you have seeing that offering and its impact. So if you don't have that many clients under your belt, you're going to be not as convinced that this person should spend money with you. But if you've taken enough people through a process that has totally transformed their life, now you can start to see that data and believe in it in yourself, right? Because if you have a certification, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm certified, but you can still face the reality that you haven't actually done anything for actual clients with that certification. And so as long as you don't see that it's going to make the difference, you might not believe fundamentally that they should spend money with you and take you through the process. And that's going to affect your confidence. So there's like this whole like underbelly of experience and confidence that can also be magnified by your own emotional reality. Maybe you feel unworthy. Maybe you have like unprocessed emotions and trauma around certain things that might affect your ability to both support and to sell coaching, right? Support in coaching and to sell coaching. There's a lot of the thing I love about coaching and also hated about it in some ways is you got to go through your own adversity and your own emotional growth in order to get to the place where you can actually make it through the sessions without being triggered. And you can't, like, I never even knew that I was being triggered. I never even knew that it was uncomfortable for me to talk about these topics with a client. I never knew that like I was letting my own stuff get away. And to some degree, like we never escaped that. I'm still always growing and learning here, but I'm a lot better at being able to let my own stuff out and let the client stuff in and create that container for them and just like ignore all those pieces of thought that are about me. And it's not 100% obviously, but that's a big factor. You have to get enough reps to really know what that feels like and how to do it. It's not as simple as just, hey, I got a certification. Now I can, sell my program and I can have confidence. The reps, just like anything, just like physical training, you need the reps.
Yeah, and that was one of my weird. When I finished my certification, it took about a week, and I'm like, this can't be it. I can't go out there and all of a sudden making. And then other coaches around me who were sort of like, yeah, this happens. They were convincing themselves and me. But I'm like, there's no way that this could happen because I haven't done it. And then I remember hearing actually Brennan Burchard say this, who trained me initially, and he's like, well, this is one of those things where you learn on the job. So he's like, you might not have gone through 4 years of degree and all that stuff, but you're going to get your experience on the job. And at least that part stuck with me. He's like, okay, that means I need to, then I had to figure out what the job was. That took a while to figure out because I thought all the other things were a job, but the real job was actually being on calls with my clients. Mm-hmm. Or my clients or potential clients. But that's essentially the job. Is you're either on calls with potential clients or clients. If you do that regularly, you have a coaching business eventually. Even if you suck at the offers or the way you structure the sessions or if you do that long enough, you will catch on. It might be clunky, you'll still catch on.
I think what you're saying, Faisal, is something that's true in pretty much every profession, which is like you learn on the job, right? You learn by actually being active in the profession. I remember when I was in university taking my degree, I was very fortunate that I had a co-op every 4 months. I would go to co-op and have experience in a company doing things, and then I would come back to school and learn the theory. Mm-hmm. and trying to like mentally, like there's gymnastics I had to do, like trying to relate the theory and that practice because they were so different. And part of that was like the way I was focusing the jobs that I was getting, and the things I was learning in school. There's a relevance gap between some of the things I was learning. And like, I remember learning calculus and it was awesome. I love calculus. And then I went to the work world, and because of the kinds of jobs that I was interested in or that I was doing, that I was hired for, I didn't have really the need to apply that skill there, but I was applying it and learning other skills. And those ended up being the more relevant skills that I needed, the ones I was learning on the job. And so in the coaching world, I feel like you can do a lot of theory and believe that you can coach people, but like the actual practice happens on the job, i.e. in the calls. And like Faisal said, do enough calls, you're going to learn some things about the stuff that happens before you get the client into the calls, which is the stuff that happens before you sell coaching itself. Like before, like, and if you're still stuck on the word sell, in order to get a client, you have to convince them, or they have to choose to start coaching with you, right? And hopefully you're not doing that every single session by charging per session, right? Hopefully you're doing that in a package so they can provide a commitment, and you can provide a commitment, and you have this container that's created for a long term. So you don't have to constantly take payment and all that stuff. It's much more transformational if you can commit to each other. And so as you do more and more sessions with clients, with people, and learn on the job, you get more confident that coaching process will be beneficial to them, which allows you to have more confidence in the sales process. But again, I would say the process that happens to sell a client is a little bit different than people are used to in the coaching certifications, or even if you get people to be in your program for free, beta clients or whatever. It's still very different than asking people to sign up for money. Oh, by the way, they're still paying in their time. If they're your free beta clients, they're still going to pay with their time, so they can choose to stop doing that. Or not choose it. So there's some selling there involved too, but it's a different level to ask people to open up their wallets too. So like maybe we should spend some time talking about some of the skill sets that people don't experience as much if they're doing lots of free coaching, or if they're doing their certification coaching beta sessions or whatever, versus if they actually have to sell in the market. Faisal, what do you think? Should we talk about that part?
In a little bit, but I want to touch on something you said. You said that there were certain things that connected with your experience to your maybe past traumas, maybe trigger points that you weren't aware of when you were doing this. This is part of the reason why a lot of coaches who have done this for a while, they will recommend you need to go get your own support, because you will do all kinds of weird things in sessions that will not be obvious to you. You will come in the middle of the process. And I'll give a story of this. It was years ago, actually, within our community. It was a coach, I won't say who, but this coach sent me a session, said, can you review this session? And the reason for that was that this coach lost a $3,000 client, and the same client. And so this was one of the sessions before the client decided to not continue with the coach that sent me the thing. And I reviewed the session. And I didn't have to review it long. Like I did review the whole thing, but within the first 10, 15 minutes, I could tell what the problem was. And I knew that I don't think it was obvious to this coach. And what I did watch the whole thing, and I gave some other tips too in the process. But the biggest problem was that the coach who was coaching this client, this coach was asking the questions from the process that was in front of the coach. But the problem was that the coach didn't understand what was in the background. In the background, this is what I was noticing in the body language. I was noticing in the energy of the call. From the time that this coach got on with the client to the time this coach got off, and it was obvious in the first 10, 15 minutes, there was a lot of judgment towards the client. You could tell. I'm like, what is going on with the energy? And I had to figure out, and I had to go back to this coach after I did review the call, and I said, hey, I don't know if this is true. And it wasn't obvious to the client either, because the client didn't know what to put finger on, but the client didn't want to be around this coach. And that's the reason the client completely disconnected this agreement, and the coach didn't know why. And there was this judgment that this coach had. And when I asked, and I confirmed with the coach, I reviewed, I said, this is what I said, something is off here. Something is completely off with the energy. Can you, and I now I remember what I asked this coach. I said, can you tell me your perception of this client? How do you look at this client? And as soon as she started describing all kinds of frustrations with the client, and the client is like this, like that, like oh, and I told him, like, it's not gonna work. You can't work with somebody and think all those things to be true.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things. Like it wasn't like she wasn't doing anything wrong in the process. It was something off about the coach's energy.
Well, what you're getting at is something that's hard to see for the coach themselves, right? It's like, what's the energy in the relationship and the container that the coach is building energetically is it's almost a different dimension than looking at the process the coach did, the questions they ask, or the content of the conversation was not the same measurement as like what's really underlying it, and it comes out in the energy, right? So you're really getting at these sort of less tangible skills of the coaching environment, which is
Yeah,
what's
and
going on internally for
that's
them.
very personal to the coach. And
Yeah.
again, none of this means you need to be perfect, but you need to have enough of a hold of yourself where you don't have these major blind spots. And if they're more obvious to you, like if I were to look at it from the words of Carl Jung, he talked about this, that what you want to do is integrate the dark and the light side. Then the problem is that you need to recognize what the dark side is, which means that there are aspects of you, you can call it the devil within, the dark side, the shadow side, whatever you want to call it. Those aspects of you, if they're not apparent to you, it will take you by surprise. It will show up in all kinds of ways that you're not aware of. So he would say that your most important thing to do is to be completely self-honest. And for you, you have to do a lot of self-examination. A lot of it is not, it's, at least in my experience, it hasn't been possible on my own. Not all of it. Parts of it, yes, but parts of it I needed somebody else to point out and call me out on for them. And this is why we need a coach. Not just a coach, I'll expand this even more. This is why you need to be around other people who are doing similar things for you to see what is the standard by which you need to grow as a coach. How do you know that if you're sitting behind your computer, let's say you started certification, you were around a bunch of people, you started your business, let's say you were a little bit successful, you started working with people, and 2-3 years in you're struggling, but you don't know how other coaches are doing any of this stuff. How do you know what the standard is? You might be operating in your own silo, not doing a lot of things wrong, but not knowing what that is. And this is part of the reason why a lot of people come back to either a community or an ecosystem or somewhere where they can understand, well, what am I doing off? And as soon as they get around people, they're like, holy shit, that's the standard? I better level up.
Yeah, I love the bringing in of the standard and being able to be influenced by the standards of those around you. So that's why coaches shouldn't be coaching in isolation. They need to have a community, a strong community with standards that they can live up to, right? So that's one of the things I love about CMC is we're holding people to higher standards for themselves, and they like that. We're challenging them to step up their game in the ways that matter, right? Which kind of brings us full circle. One of the things that really matters for coaches is to understand that pre-client process. The process of from when you meet somebody to when they become a client. There's a lot that happens in between that process. And I think I would just say, if you're very good at building relationships with people and building like genuine, authentic relationships with people, you should feel good, because that's the same skill set that you need to leverage to gain clients. You have to get out of your own way too. But the usual distinction here is that you don't need the distinctions most coaches need also here in that is that you don't need to only be relationally oriented. You also need to be oriented as a leader. So it's a leadership skill set as well. The idea being that to build your coaching business, you have to continually build your network and your relationships around you as a normal way of being and operating in the world. Not knowing which one of those relationships are going to be the ones that become clients for you. Some of them will, and some of them won't, and that's okay, because you're growing your network and being relational as a human. The challenge that coaches often run into is, how do you get people to take that next step? And that's a leadership challenge. The next step into the coaching process, right? So you're busy building relationships, connecting with people, having conversations, and then how do you bring them into your, you could call it a funnel, you could call it discovery calls, you could call it, like bring them into your coaching program as a client. There's a whole separate set of skills that are not as obvious as I'm making it sound right now. Like you have to be the leader if you want to bring people into your coaching program, because what you're doing is you're opening the door to help people make a decision to engage in a coaching process with you. And it's super easy to screw that up. It's like, if you think about the dating world, like you're meeting people all the time, and you want to have a relationship, but not everybody you meet is going to become your partner. Not everybody you meet is going to become your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. So like as you go through that process, there's a way to take the next step. There's a natural way, and it's different for each person and each connection, but there's some principles around how to take that next natural step. So people who are struggling with that next natural step, maybe they don't know how to do it, or they haven't done the work or done enough reps to understand what works and what doesn't. I did so many terrible reps in the dating world to like figure out what doesn't work. I did that for so long, and then I just realized like every one of the big things I realized in the dating world, like, I applied to coaching as well, which is when a relationship is at that point of growth where the next step needs to be taken, there's usually a little bit of risk involved. There's usually a little bit of leading or being the leader in the relationship to take to that next step. So if I want to date somebody, I'm going to have to ask them on a date, or I'm going to have to connect with them in such a way that I open an invitation to them to take a next step with me. And one of the rules I learned from, I think it was Eben Pagan when he was doing his double your dating, which is just as applicable for coaching, which is don't let the line go slack. So in coaching, we tend to like relate and connect with people and just keep on talking, and just have these nice, somewhat maybe coachy conversations, but we struggle sometimes to invite them to take the next step. And if you have a process, which is, the process we teach in CMC is the best practices of how to build these organic, relational, nurturing conversation steps that lead you one step forward so that the relationship doesn't go slack, and that you can keep on helping them take the next step towards the decisions they need to make, the better your outcomes are going to be. But if you go too fast, if you like propose to somebody on the first date, that's usually going to come out very needy and desperate. If you never make the move to invite them to a next step, you're never going to get the relationship. So it's the same in coaching. Don't let the relationship go slack, but also don't be pressuring. And you have to do this in a very authentic way for you. Otherwise, they're going to think that you're not who you're presenting yourself to be. So there's lots of skill sets in here, and dating and coaching are very hard in those ways to really understand what those natural playbooks are, and experience is a really big deal. But sometimes you don't even know what to practice and get that experience, right? It's very painful to go through those missteps often.
Yeah. I hear a loud objection from coaches that are listening to this, because I've heard it so many times. Well, but I'm not extroverted. But I am not this way or that way. I'm not this kind of person. I only get to know a few people in my life, and this is coming from somebody who I used to think I was introverted, and I tend to go deeper in relationships than surface. What I found is that there's actually virtually no way of building a business without building relationships. That is like you're in business, which means relationships, and then you're in a coaching business that it's even more higher relational thing in it, meter in it, than an average business, which means that you will, and just for those who are thinking it's their personality type or the way they are, none of those are a barrier. The barrier is that you're putting a barrier in front of yourself. The question is this path worth it long term for you? Are you willing to evolve with this? Which means that, are you actually putting yourself out there in front of enough people for you to make some kind of headway? And that is uncomfortable. That, like you said, it requires, it takes risk. You'll have to take risk. It takes courage. And essentially, even when I'm working with my clients who struggle to date or who struggle to find, I almost always end up in a place where there's some part of them stops them from being in front of people to date them. If they dated enough people, they would find the right person, but they will date for a little while. Like, I've tried it. Then I'm like, so when was the last time you went on a date? It's like, I don't know, 6 months ago. When was the last time you scheduled? And this is especially people who are very successful on their professional side and everything. They find a way to overcompensate in the other area. I'm like, well, tell me, is there any kind of practice you have? Is there a way you grow that? Is there a way you do anything? It's like, well, yeah, once in a while. As soon as they become consistent, they try different things. I'm actually invited to a client's wedding, which this client didn't date for what? Didn't date somebody seriously for over a decade. And the same thing I kept hearing over and over and over. And then I'm like, once this client became much more intentional, and this is like, surprise, there's somebody out there for this client.
Yeah, I think that's such a valuable metaphor to end on, Faisal, because the consistency of dating is what gets you the reps. If you and it comes down to the level of commitment, right? If you're being sporadic about your dating world or your coaching world, your coaching practice, if you're being a little more sporadic or a little hesitant to put yourself out there or to take people to the next step, then there's got to be a higher level of commitment if you want to actually gain those clients or those dates in the dating world. So, like, commitment is evidenced by the consistency with which you engage with the thing you're committed to. So if you're committed and therefore consistent, or if you're consistent, it's an evidence that you are committed, you will do enough, consistently enough, that you will figure it out. And so I would encourage all the coaches listening today, if you're not consistent with your coaching business, with your outreach and with your follow-ups and with your helping people to take the next step, inviting them authentically and professionally into that next container of coaching, then, or if you know a coach that is also inconsistent there, please share this with them, because that's a huge opportunity for them to up-level their coaching business game, right? Or if they're dating this way, send this to them too.
This will help them with dating as well.
Totally.
And again, the building a business is hard. Learning to be a better coach is hard. Building a coaching business is hard. None of this is supposed to be easy. You just got to decide, is this worth my attention, time, commitment over a longer period of time? And I would say anybody who is in the starting point, give it at least 2 years. See where it goes. If somebody has started and they're kind of on and off, they're getting clients, but they're losing, and you've been at it for 3 years, you don't have enough consistency. You don't have enough support. You don't have enough feedback. And find a community, or find our community. We can support, but don't do it alone, because businesses, you don't want to be in your corner. You will always fall off in some way. Be around other coaches who are actually working on the same things as you, not those who are certifying constantly, but those who are building a business, serving others. They're working towards being a better coach. And if our community feels aligned with you, definitely go to cmc.coach, join our free community. You will get lots of resources and support in there, and then we can take the conversation from there.
Great. And once you join our Facebook community, you can reach out to us. You can watch our podcast weekly live. If you're seeing this within our community, it's live and raw and unedited. And then we have an edited version that comes out. If you're seeing this on the edited version, make sure you go join our community. And please do share this with other coaches who you think you feel may need to hear it. And lastly, what did you think? What did you like? Did you gain any insights from today's podcast? Please post a comment below. Share it, like it, subscribe it, whatever you can do to help us get the message out to coaches. And we hope to see you next time on the Coach's Journey podcast.